Where is she? You may search the house. She watched me, chin in hand, in the yellow chair, unnettled, in possession of what I didn't know, but in possession. I felt like a green young dog in pursuit of a cunning old hare. Every time I leapt, I beat brown air. I looked at the photo of Alison, then tore it in four and threw it into an ashtray on a console table by the window. Silence, which eventually she broke. My poor resentful young man, let me tell you something. Love may really be more a capacity for love in oneself than anything very lovable in the other person. I believe Alison has a very rare capacity for attachment and devotion, far more than I ever had. I think it is very precious, and all I have done is to persuade her that she must not underestimate, as I believe she has all her life till now, what she has to give. How kind. She sighed. Sarcasm again. Well, what do you expect? Tears of remorse? Sarcasm is so ugly and so revealing. There was silence. After a time she went on. You are really the luckiest and the blindest young man. Lucky because you are born with some charm for women, even though you seem determined not to show it to me. Blind because you have had a little piece of pure womankind in your hands. Do you not realize that Alison possessed the one great quality our sex has to contribute to life, besides which things like education, class, background are nothing? And you've let it slip, helped by your charming daughters. My daughters were nothing but the personification of your own selfishness. A dull, deep rage was brewing in me. I happened, stupidly, I grant you, to fall in love with one of them, as an unscrupulous collector falls in love with a painting he wants, and will do anything to get. Except this wasn't a painting, it was a girl with as much morality as a worn-out whore from the Place Pigalle. She let a little silence pass on the elegant drawing-room reproof, then said quietly, strong words. I turned on her. I begin to wonder how much you know. First of all, your not-so-virgin daughter. I know precisely what she did. She sat calmly facing me, but a little more erect. And I know precisely the reasons behind what she did, but if I told you them, I would tell you everything. Then shall I call those two down there? Tell your son how his sister performs, I think that's the euphemism, 1 week with me, the next with a Negro. She let silence pass again, as if to isolate what I said, as people leave a question unanswered in order to snub the questioner. Does a Negro make it so much worse? It doesn't make it any better. He is a very intelligent and charming man. They have been sleeping together for some time. And you approve? My approval is unasked for and unnecessary. Lily is of age. I grinned sourly at her, then looked out at the garden. Now I understand why you grow so many flowers. She shifted her head, not understanding. I said, to cover the stink of sulphur. She got up and stood with one hand on the mantelpiece, watching me as I walked about the room, still calm, alert, playing me like a kite. I might plunge and flare, but she held the strain. I prepared to listen without interrupting. I looked at her, then shrugged assent. Very well. Now let us get the business of what is and what is not sexually proper out of the way. Her voice was even. As a matter of fact, is one of those women doctors determined to ban gender from the surgery. Because I live in a Queen Anne's house, do not think I live like most of the rest of our country by a Queen Anne morality. Nothing was further from my mind. Will you listen? I went and stood by the window, my back to her. I felt that at last I ought to have her in the corner. I must have her in the corner. How shall I explain to you? If Maurice were here, he would tell you that sex is perhaps a greater but in no way different pleasure from any other. He would tell you that it is only one part and not the essential part in the relationship we call love. He would tell you that the essential part is truth. The trust two people build between their minds, their souls, if you will. That the real infidelity is the one that hides sexual infidelity. Because the one thing that must never come between two people who have offered each other love is a lie. I stared out over the lawn. I knew it was prepared, it was all she was saying, perhaps learned by heart, a key speech. Are you daring to preach to me, Mrs. de Citas? Are you daring to pretend that you do not need a sermon? Look, please listen to me. If her voice had held the least sharpness or arrogance, I should not have done so, but it was unexpectedly gentle, almost beseeching. I am trying to explain what we are. Maurice convinced us over 20 years ago that we should banish the normal taboos of sexual behavior from our lives. Not because we were more immoral than other people, but because we were more moral. We attempted to do that in our own lives. I have attempted to do it in the way I have brought up our children. And I must make you understand that sex for all of us who help Maurice, not an important thing. Or not the thing it is in most people's lives. We have more important things to do. I would not turn a look at her. Before the war, I twice played roles somewhat similar to Lily's with you. She is prepared to do things I was not. I had far more inhibitions to shed. I also had a husband whom I loved sexually as well as in the other more important ways. But since we have penetrated so deeply into your life, I owe it to you to say that even when my husband was living, I sometimes gave myself with his full knowledge and consent to Maurice. And in the war, he in his turn had an Indian mistress with my full knowledge and consent. Yet I believe ours was a very complete marriage, a very happy one, because we have kept to two essential rules. We never told each other lies, and there was one. I will not tell you until I know you better. I looked round then contemptuously. I found her calmness uncomfortable. The madness seizing underneath, she sat down again. Of course, If you wish to live in the world of received ideas and received manners, what we did, what my daughter did, is disgusting. Very well, but remember that there is another possible explanation. She may have been being very brave. Neither I nor my children pretend to be ordinary people. They were not brought up to be ordinary. We are rich and we are intelligent, and we mean to live rich, intelligent lives. Lucky you. Of course, lucky us, and we accept the responsibility that our good luck in the lottery of existence puts upon us. Responsibility. I wheeled round on her again. Do you really think we do this just for you? Do you really believe we are not charting the voyage? She went on in a milder voice. All that we did was to us a necessity. She meant not a self-indulgence. She meant not self-indulgence. With all the necessity of gratuitous obscenity, with all the necessity of a very complex experiment. I like my experiments simple. The days of simple experiments are over. A silence fell between us. I was still full of spleen, and in some obscure way frightened to think of Alison in this woman's hands. As one hears of a countryside one has loved being sold to building developers. And I also felt left behind, abandoned again. I did not belong to this other planet world. I know young men who would envy you. Not if I ever tell the story. Then they will pity you, your narrow-mindedness.